your creative really needs to speak to your target audience, and you really need to understand their pain points, their dream desires, what keeps them up at night, and the transformation. Video ads as a whole work best when someone is well known in the marketplace or they're really good at creating content. So, but it always comes down to testing. The biggest change is that now with AI, we aren't setting hard parameters around who we tell Meta to target. What we're actually doing is we're basically just giving suggestions to Meta, and the targeting is now our creative.
What one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
When you're ready to scale your brand, don't discount using paid advertising.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Ethan Cassiotis, and today I have an awesome guest. Her name is Nicki Sciberras. She is a Meta ad strategist, coach, and expert in her field, where she teaches creators how to run Meta ads using a simple blueprint so they can find their dream students with ease and finally reach their income goals without the 24/7 hustle. Welcome, Nikki. Thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome to have you here as well. I'm sure it's going to be a great show for everyone watching and listening today. But firstly, you are a successful entrepreneur. So if those people don't know who you are, just introduce yourself by telling us a little bit more about you and your journey.
Oh, thanks for the plug. So I am, as you know, a Meta ad strategist, but it didn't start out like that. Essentially, I took the standard way. I went to school, I went to university, and I had a corporate job, and I worked my way up the corporate ladder to marketing manager roles. And I loved my roles, but I kind of felt boxed in terms of I was stuck in the four walls of the building. My income was capped, and I wanted to help more businesses that were, I guess, in line with my passions and things that I was interested in. So that's when I left 7 years ago to start my first business, which was Miss Marketing. And then about 3 years ago, so that business was actually a full service marketing company. We did all types of marketing because I had the experience as a marketing manager. And in that time as a marketing manager, I learned how to do Meta ads. That was one of the tools, obviously, that most businesses use to grow their business. And about 3 years ago, we elevated our brand and we renamed or rebranded to the Digital Exchange. And now we primarily focus on paid advertising. So Meta and Google ads, we offer both as a service, and I teach Meta ads as well. And the reason that we moved into those areas is one, because they are in high demand, and two, we really love them. But three, that's where we find the most growth happens for people in their business, because you can scale at such a rapid pace.
Yeah, love it. Amazing. Great story. And I love the shift there. And then, the rebrand as well from, doing all the things to being, going, okay, let's specialize in these few areas that's, gets the biggest ROI, so to speak, and everything and growth in the business, like you said, in the scaling side. So Meta ads. And just in case anyone doesn't know what that is, obviously that's Facebook and Instagram for everybody there, rebranded. And let's talk about them, right? Because I think it's very powerful, and a lot of people, they just post organically. They don't really understand them. So why is it important that we should be running, Meta ads for our business?
So typically when it comes to organic marketing, so for those who don't know what organic marketing is, it's things that you are basically, when you're marketing your business for free. So things like social media marketing, email marketing, those kind of things. So the problem with those is they're great and you can get a really warm audience from them, but there's no speed to it. So it's really hard to reach people at a rapid pace. And on average, you need about 100 people to see your website in order for 2 people to take action, like buy. And if you're only getting a handful of people to your website every month as a result of organic marketing, it's going to take you a really long time in order for you to hit your ambitious income or revenue goals. And then that's where Meta ads comes in. With using Meta ads, so using paid advertising, such as, again, Meta or Google, you can reach people really, really fast. And as a result, you can scale your business really fast. And that's, I guess, where a lot of people are falling short. They've had these businesses going for a long time and they're really tired. They're trying to do, 20 different types of marketing, which is all well and good when you're a corporate company with a lot of resource and budget. But when you're just a one-man band or you've only got a few people working for you, it's really hard to scale your business without having some way to reach people at a fast speed or expose your brand.
Yeah, Definitely. It's very, very powerful. And that's what we want to do. Get as many eyeballs as we can as quickly as possible, especially when we're getting faster there. So let's talk a bit about strategy now, because I think this is an important part, right? Because a lot of people might go out there and maybe they've worked with agencies before that haven't done really well and just put some things out. They tried it themselves and they probably don't understand that there needs to be a strategy, right, behind what you're
Yes,
doing there when you're running it.
definitely.
So talk more about that, the importance and how we should be thinking, about strategy.
Yeah, so first and foremost, when it comes to your meta ads, you need to have an offer that's validated. And what I mean by that is you need to have sold whatever you sell, whether it be a product, a service, or a course, through an organic channel first. So you need to have, used social media or made some sales on your website using email marketing or search engine optimization, because you don't want to put money behind something like through paid ads without first validating that people actually want what you're selling, because otherwise you're just going to be fueling something that's going nowhere. So basically, first and foremost, think of meta ads as a amplification tool, not something that's going to, where you're going to wave a magic wand and it's going to solve all your problems. So the first thing is to make sure people actually want what you're selling, and you do that in a free way. Second of all, when it comes to your ads, people think that you just throw an ad up and you're going to get all these sales, but it doesn't work like that. The three main things that you are going to want to make sure are right is your offer, so what you're selling in the first place. If you want to scale big, it needs to be able to reach a mass market. If you just want to get a few extra sales, you can run your offer if it's validated. But if you want to reach a bigger market and scale your business, you're going to need something that appeals to a lot of people. You're also going to need to look at your ad creative. That is now the biggest driving factor in terms of getting results. So historically, there was all these different areas that we needed to be able to manage with our ads and the setup. But now with the AI coming in, it's completely changed the game. So your creative really needs to speak to your target audience, and you really need to understand their pain points, their dream desires, what keeps them up at night, and the transformation. And you need to execute that really well in your ads through both the format. So that would be whether it's through a carousel or through, an image or a video. And then the other thing is through the messaging that you put in the actual ad, whether it, and that's in the hook and the visuals and things like that. So they're the three biggest drivers in terms of getting results with meta ads. The setup now is pretty easy to do. And to be honest, there's not a lot of things that you need to tweak when it comes to the settings. But in terms of strategy, it's getting those three things right. And if you can get those three things right, you can scale to your heart's content. But the thing is, most people go into ads thinking that there's some magic formula and you win straight away, but it's not. Whatever you initially set up in the ads manager generally isn't what is going to get you the success. The success comes from A/B testing your offer, your creative format, and your messaging. So once you get that combination and you start A/B testing continuously, you are going to keep reaching new audiences and growing your sales and your revenue, even more.
Yeah, love that. That's amazing. Let's just talk a little bit more around the timeline here, right? Because I think,
Yes.
like you said, that was a really good point. Because people think, oh, I got a marketing agency, and after a month I should get results, or after even 3 months. Like, what's realistic with the testing of building up and starting to tweak something? I know it's subjective sometimes, a little bit with there, but I guess the sort of minimum to maximum time of how long something can take, to get some results.
Definitely. I think it all comes down to what you're selling, but also the size of your brand. So typically for a small brand or a brand new brand to market, it would take at least 3 months to start to see any traction. Perhaps a little bit earlier if you're a service-based business, because you can get leads in and you can convert them over calls. But in terms of an e-commerce brand, if you have a higher end product or a higher ticket product, it's going to take at least 3 months to start to see results. And the reason is you still need to grow your brand in that. And bigger brands can come in and get results straight away because they're already getting a lot of people on their website. They've already got a lot of warm audience to target. So you can see pretty much results straight away when you've got a brand that's established in the marketplace. So, but if you're like brand new and no one knows your brand and you've got 2 followers, people aren't going to trust your brand. So it's going to take time for them to see your brand, over a set amount of times, maybe 7 times is what they say on average, in order for them to start to build that trust. And there are ways that you can build trust more. Social proof is a big one, having a decent sized following, showing up consistently, having creators or other influencers promote your brand, people that are trusted with your audience that you're targeting. So there are things like that, and branding and that kind of exposure plays a big part in it. So there isn't like one set answer, but let's just go with 3 months as a minimum for most brands.
Yeah, cool, awesome. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that, right? Don't expect miracles after a month or something when you're doing things, especially if you're starting out, with new campaigns.
Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
think you made a really good point around branding there, right? Like my wife's got a branding agency, and I know that a
Yes.
lot of ad agencies come to her and say, "Hey, we need to fix this brand up a bit, fix the messaging and things like that first, because if you've got something that's a shitty foundation, it's going to be hard, right, to amplify it from an
Yes.
ads perspective." Do you see that as well?
Definitely. So, in terms of who you want to attract, that's the kind of image that you need to put out. So, you can't expect to be getting high ticket or people wanting to spend a lot of money with you if your brand doesn't back it up. It's different if you've been growing your brand for 20 years and you're really well known, and that's a completely different story. But if you've only been in the marketplace for a few years, you need to be presenting for the kind of people that you want to be attracting, because people do judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, definitely do. So we've got to use those cognitive biases, as they say, there to our advantage, right? On looking at things.
Exactly.
If I was here in a tank top, people would think differently of me, right? And I've always worn a suit jacket, but it all comes down to that part of it. So no, I think there were amazing points there. So let's talk about the type of ads now, right? I think this is a really good topic because. And maybe we have to break this up into e-commerce and service based because it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Um, e-commerce to me is a little bit simpler. The service space, maybe there's things like lead magnets and things like that. So what are the things that you're seeing, I guess, that are working, for different types of businesses?
So typically, everyone just thinks that video ads is the way to go. And it's funny because I see that everywhere. And I find that video ads as a whole work best when someone is well known in the marketplace or they're really good at creating content. So, but it always comes down to testing. So you've got to A/B test all the different things, because what works for one brand won't work for another brand. So two people in the same industry could have completely different, outcomes from the same types of videos. Now, in terms of e-commerce, typically you see a lot of user-generated content that works really well, social proof content, testimonials, influencers, those kinds of things. You'll see a lot of particularly bigger brands running ads that include those kinds of things. And the reason for that is because you kind of get the double whammy off it. Like you not only get the exposure from the ads, but then you get the social proof and the exposure, especially if you use a partnership ad where you have both your brands on the ad. You get a double social proof and exposure from combining those factors. Now, generally, you can just get away with running sales ads if you've got a decent sized brand using those types of ad formats, but it's good to have some awareness ads going to consistently getting in people's minds as well. Now, when it comes to service-based businesses, you can have both a lead magnet. Well, let's go back a step. If you're a creator, generally you're going to have a lead magnet. They're the people that want to build their expertise in the minds of, the people that they're targeting. If you're a service-based business, you can just go straight in with your offer. But you'd be using some kind of hot offer to draw people in. So for example, we had a client of ours that was a newborn photographer, and she had $200 off for the first 10 people that registered with her from the ad. And that went gangbusters, that kind of thing. So you have to have something that is really attractive to your audience. You don't necessarily have to have a lead magnet if you're a service-based business, unless you want to grow your email list and then potentially sell something in the future, or you want to grow your agency quite big and have a big pool of people to pull from. But generally with lead-based businesses or service-based businesses, they won't need as many leads, because it just all comes down to how much time they can exchange, for what they're doing. You don't have as much time. When you've got an e-commerce brand, you can sell and you can scale a lot faster. And then for creator brands, anyone that's selling coaching, digital products, courses, memberships, etc., you really do need those lead magnets in order to be able to build your email list. So when it comes time to launching, if you're on Evergreen, you've got pools of people to pick from. Now, in terms of the ads that are working for service-based and creators, it all comes down to testing again. So we see videos working really well for some of those groups, but then we see images working really well for some of those groups. And we generally only see carousels performing well when the investment is bigger. So if it's a high ticket offer, or if you're asking them to sign up for an hour webinar, so because there's a huge investment in time, putting the extra effort into those ads generally pays off. And they're the kind of times that we see that the carousels, again, are paying off. So just A/B test. That's where you're going to get the best results, and you won't know until you do that. And that's what every big brand that is doing, and everyone that's making big money on Meta, they've got multiple tests running at a time. So that would be my advice there. But also we're seeing in the creator and service-based space now, people are starting to use more influencers and user-generated content in that space too. So keep your eyes out for that, because even brands like Kajabi and ManyChat, I'm sure you're seeing Google ads, Meta ads with creators in them now too.
Yeah, cool. Love it. So important there. Let's just talk a little bit around the AI side for the creative, right? Because you mentioned that earlier, where it's changing the game now. It's making it easier to some extent. It's also, I guess, a reason to work out how to stick out from the crowd as well, if a lot of people have access to things like that too. So what do you see as, whether it's a particular tool or what's working in terms of, the image versus, the video and stuff like that, of what we can use with AI there? A lot of people know ChatGPT. Is there other things like that that can help us with that?
Yeah, so first and foremost, you've got AI in the Meta platform itself. So the new campaign setups, the Advantage Plus setups, capture a lot of AI. So they will actually control your audience budget, your audience targeting, and your audience placements, for one. And then you've also got it's got like a copywriting feature within Meta platform itself. And then it's also got the ability to make different graphics for you and enhance your ads in different ways. So for example, if you only want to make 2 ad sizes, there is an enhancement that will basically resize your ad for different formats. So you don't need to employ a graphic designer to go and make you the 15 different formats. It will just adjust based on the placement. So there is numerous different tools within the ads manager itself to get you better results. So don't discount. So we don't want to discount any of those to start with. So always go in your ads manager and see what's available first and use those. There's also numerous other tools that people are using. So there is adcreative.ai. That is one where it basically just creates ads at scale for you. So you put in your headline, you can upload some graphics, your branding, etc., and it will just download a whole bunch of different ad creative for you. That's a really popular one. What else have we got? We've got, Foreplay is not really an AI tool, but that's another great tool that's worth mentioning. Foreplay is one where you can actually save people's ads, and it's super handy. So if you want to come back in a year's time and have a look at what was the best performing ads for your competitors, you've still got them all sitting there so that you can use those for inspiration. And it may not be a year, it may be a bit shorter of a time, because obviously the market's moving really, really fast. So ChatGPT should never be discounted. We use ChatGPT all the time, whether it's for strategy. We've got so many prompts that we put in, copy. But if you want something that is a bit more storytelling, Claude is a really good AI platform for that. So it's a bit like ChatGPT, but it's a bit more personal, and the storytelling side of it is better when it comes to the writing of your ads.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thanks for sharing all of those amazing resources there. I like the Foreplay one. That's very cool, with being able to save stuff and then be able to, go back to it later. I was doing the old school thing of like doing screenshots and stuff sometimes when I see them and keeping them back. So now that would make my life a lot easier there and look at it. Yeah.
Oh, it's so handy because you can actually save it. And in the ads manager, the Facebook ads library, it basically, that once they're inactive, sometimes you can't see them, but with this platform, you can save them all and come back to them. And you can also write briefs for agencies or graphic designers, and you can send it straight from the platform. So it's a really cool new tool.
Yeah, amazing. Love the tools. So we're working through these ads, right? Everything like that there. Now, let's just talk a little bit around the differences. I think you alluded to it a little bit now, because I've run ads. I've learned, right, how to run the ads and stuff as well. And there was a little bit of complexity, right? Because you got to understand, especially around the targeting and everything like that there. Now, Meta's AI is getting more involved, with the placements, with the targeting and doing that there. What are some of the things that you're seeing with the shift there with, manual versus, automatic and things like that, with the targeting of how we're doing the ads?
So typically targeting used to be more of a thing. We used to compare or A/B test different audiences in different ad sets against each other. That has now gone out the window. We are now consolidating all of our audiences and targeting mostly into one ad set, and we can target our cold and warm audiences in the one ad set. But the biggest change is that now with AI, we aren't setting hard parameters around who we tell Meta to target. What we're actually doing is we're basically just giving suggestions to Meta, and the targeting is now our creative. So we are saying to Meta, when we set the targeting within the ads manager or within our campaign, we are saying, these are my suggestions. Go outside those parameters if you think you can get better results for me. And it's going to basically use your ad creative in order to pull in, based on your messaging and the format, who it thinks will get better results. Now, you can still manually set up ads and use those hard parameters. And the only time that we normally really see people doing that is when they're, say, running a course launch and they only want to retarget. So people have attended a webinar or some kind of event or a conversion event, and they want to only retarget the people that have actually been to that event or hit the sales page. They don't want to waste their budget outside of that, because they know, given the high ticket nature of what they're selling, it's only going to be a really warm audience that are going to purchase. But as a whole, we typically recommend having that consolidated audience in one ad set, bringing in your suggested cold and warm audiences. And then in that, within the campaign itself in that single ad set, you'll also run your top, middle, and bottom of funnels all within the same ad set. Typically before, we used to separate them out and have 3 separate campaigns historically. But now it's all in one, and Meta is smart enough to know who to send your ads to based on the responses that it's getting to your ads. So whether people are engaging with them, purchasing. Once your pixel's installed, it knows how to optimize your ads to get you the best performance.
Yeah, nice, awesome. Making our lives a lot easier, right? In that area there.
Definitely.
So yeah, because I remember it used to take. I did it before, man. It took me hours sometimes to create so many ad sets and things like that. Like, it's music to my ears with how the platform shifted. Let's just talk a bit around the type of ad now, because I know there's things like clicks, people might be looking at, or there's like conversion ads, right? Where you can be like, you're getting like a client and things like that. Depending, obviously it could depend on what you're looking at. So are you seeing a better way to set up the ad in terms of that area on the result that you want, to there? Because I've been taught around conversion ads, for example, right? Like, I want to know how many people sign up to my event or buy the thing, right, in that area there, compared to, just doing more of a lead type ad and understanding, the clicks.
So typically, I think where people go wrong with Meta is that they think that Meta's maybe trying to trick them, but they're not. If you want a sales ad, you simply just, in the campaign objective, you pick sales ads, and that's how it works. If you want leads, then you pick leads. Generally, that's what you're going to select 90% of the time, and you're going to select the option. So even if you were running an event, for example, and your end goal was to get sales, you would still pick leads, because for the event, you want to get leads. And you can actually change your conversion, what you want your selection to be. So within Meta itself, you can now select whether you want a higher volume of leads or you want leads that spend more money. So that's where you can further define it at the ad set level when you're looking at the conversion event. And then, so they are like the two main, I guess, campaign objectives you'd probably pick 90% of the time. We are starting to use more awareness ads. So what that does is, essentially, instead of having calls to action or heavy calls to action, you just have 10 to 14 ads running at a time on rotation at a really low cost. And what it does is, it's like almost like a flywheel, or basically people seeing your ads all the time online. So you start to build your brand, and it feels like you're showing up online all the time. So every time someone opens up Facebook or Instagram, they're seeing you. So they feel like you're an established brand, and you're keeping top of mind. So we like to pair the awareness ads with a leads or sales campaign, or sometimes both, depending on what you're selling. And that's where we find we're getting the biggest results. The leads and sales campaigns are more of like an instant strategy, whereas the awareness campaigns are a long-term strategy where over time you're targeting a smaller amount of people, but you're building that brand in their mind.
Yeah, awesome. And would that be a separate campaign in Meta that you would be doing them in? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So your awareness campaign you would do separate, and then you'd have your leads campaign and then your sales campaign. Now, those awareness campaigns can be a little bit trickier to set up, because Essentially, you don't want people getting 10 ads at a time. You want them to only get 1 or 2 ads every day, and you want them to get different ads every day. So you might have 14 to 20 ads within that campaign going, but that you only want them to see 1 or 2 on average every day. And every day you want them to see a different one of those 20. So the setup is a little bit tricky and it's more advanced, but that is something that we are finding works really well with growing brands and scaling them longer term.
Yeah, amazing. Love that. Let's talk about the budget now a little bit here, right? Because I think this is a big one. Because number one, obviously, there's I guess a management, right, for an ad agency like yourself to obviously run all this stuff, because there's a lot that goes into the back of this. I know we're talking about all this stuff, but I know I've done it myself. And then there's the ad spend, right? So let's take the management side out of it for now. From the ad spend side, how much do you, and it's probably subjective as well, you can give me different examples of this about maybe is there a minimum that you think that should be being spent on ads, or how much we should be looking at from a budget perspective?
Yeah, so you can run ads at a lower cost a day, so like say $10 to $15, but it's probably not really going to move the needle. $5 a day, it's going to be really slow. And the reason I say this is because I see a lot of gurus saying, yes, you can run ads for $5 a day. And the truth is you can, but you're going to be moving at a snail pace. And if you know that your ads are performing, why wouldn't you pour more money in and get more results? And that's where it comes down to validating your offer. And once you know your offer's converting, you know that you can add more budget behind it or more rocket fuel, right? So the way that you would typically work out your budget is you would reverse engineer it from how many sales you want to get based on the revenue, what you want to achieve. So you would need to know, and we have a calculator that we can share with this at the end, but essentially you want to know how much revenue you want to get, say for the quarter or for the year. And then you need to know your conversion rate for your website. So how many people out of every 100 actually take the action that you want them to take, whether it's to book or to buy with you. And then you need the price of your product. And you can essentially work that backwards in order to figure out an amount in order for you to hit your revenue goal. And in order for me to put this simply, say if it cost you $20 a day, say if it cost you $20 to get a lead, if you only had $5 a day, it's going to take you 4 days to get one lead, and then you've got to convert that lead. But if you knew that you could get leads for $20 and you knew you could convert them at 50%, then you might put your budget at $100 a day and you're going to be converting people a lot faster. So it all just depends on your goal and how quick you want to hit it. But essentially, if your system is converting and you know it's working, so your website, your website is converting people, because ads is only 50% of it. Your website has to convert people too, or wherever you're sending them. So if you know your website's converting at a certain percentage, basically however much money you put into it, that's what you're going to get out of it. So you're better off putting more in to get more out if you want to hit that goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's all works down on the numbers, right? Just like business generally, right? In what you're doing, you got to reverse engineer the numbers, which is so important on that. So it's like, how much do you want to make? Well, that's how much you put in into the business. Yeah. So
exactly. And it can be tricky. And that's why we've made calculators. So basically all you have to put in is, your website conversion rate, how much you want to make, and what the price of your product is. And it will tell you how many sales you need, how much traffic you need, and then it will give you a calculation, like a budget calculation for your ads as well.
Yeah, amazing. I think we've done a good section there on the meta ads very deeply, and it is the biggest platform, right? A lot of the time, the lowest cost per lead and everything like that. So I think it was definitely warranted of a big section of this. Let's just quickly talk about Google Ads, right? I know you do these as well. What do you see as the differences? To me, it's like those types of businesses that people search, right, on Google is sort of maybe it's the service based, the trades or things like this, right, where people normally go in and search. That Google Ads would also be good. Doesn't mean you don't do meta ads, but then having that there. And what are you seeing as I guess working? Because it's a little bit different, right? You're sort of bidding for keywords and things like that. A little bit different compared to meta ads.
Yeah, exactly. They are different. So you can use them really well together, but typically with Google Ads, you're targeting a warmer audience. So because people are using keywords to search for what you're after, generally they are going to be aware of brands or aware of their problem already, and they're looking for a way to solve that problem. So typically they're a lot warmer, which means they're more likely to convert. So your results will generally look a lot better on Google Ads than Meta, because with Meta, you're targeting people that have never heard of your brand. You're making them aware of what you sell by putting it in their feed or in their stories, and they may not have even known they had the problem in the first place. Whereas when it comes to Google, they're searching questions, they're searching keywords, which indicate to us that they already know they have a problem or they're looking for a solution. So you will generally find that the audiences are a lot warmer when it comes to Google. And in terms of types of businesses that you can run on the platform, you can still run all types of businesses on Google. We do find, though, that if you have a business that requires urgency, such as a trade, you are going to need to use a platform like Google, because throwing an ad about your services in Meta isn't really going to work if someone's got a leaking tap, because it's going to be really hard, but by random chance, that their ad just appears in their feed at the exact right time. So that's when you're going to need to shift to something like Google, when there's something, more urgency related.
Yeah, awesome. Love those differences there as well. And I think everybody needs to be looking at this, right? So powerful, right, on the marketing side, and it is testing, right? It's like,
yes,
like you said earlier, one thing works for one, is it going to work for another? So you got to go through the process with an ad agency like yourself or whoever it is there to guide you through that, and trust. And as long as it's being measured, right, and you're looking at those results, every month or whatever it is, or every week, then you will then make adjustments, right, over time to get to the growth and scaling that you want, right, in your business.
exactly. So the big money comes from testing, and that's how you scale, because you're never going to know from day one what your audience is going to respond to. And in that, even when you know what your audience responds to at the start, that's going to be your warmest buyers and people that already have a problem. When you want to scale beyond your wildest dreams, you need to reach further up the sales funnel. And in order to reach further up the sales funnel, you're going to need to test different offers, different ad formats, and different messaging in order to reach more of a mass market. Because to make more money, you need to reach the masses. So they're just things that you need to consider. But yes, A/B testing is literally the most pivotal thing when it comes to scaling your business to big places.
Yeah, definitely. And let's talk a little bit about burnout here, right? Because I think this is a big one, and avoiding it ideally. A lot of people push themselves. There's this hustle culture, that you're seeing on there a lot online. And eventually, if you push yourself too much, it can come back, right? So I'd like to know your thoughts on, still making things happen in your business, but obviously not getting to that stage of burnout.
Yeah, this is a big one for us. And this is part of the reason that we love ads so much, because you can scale your brand so easily without needing to do 257 different marketing tactics. And it's a really important factor when you are a small brand and you don't have the resources and budget, because a lot of gurus are saying just hustle, 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 keep going, keep going, keep going. But what you find is if you're doing the wrong tactics, you're never actually going to reach where you want to reach, because you don't have the resource, or you don't have the support in order to reach the goal. And you don't even understand the basics, which is that you need 100 people to get to your website in the first place to get those 2 conversions. So if you're not getting the volume of traffic and the quality of traffic at scale, you're never going to hit those points. So I think for us, the reason that we really went down this, marketing channel, is that we want to help people get out of that marketing burnout, or that content hamster wheel, where you're just creating content constantly and doing different types of marketing. And you have 1 or 2 or 3 maybe different types of marketing that you run, but you use your ads to really scale your brand to that revenue goal that you want to achieve. And it's honestly, there's no other way that I believe that you can really do it. Influencers are really helpful with exposure, but other than that, it's really hard without having the longevity of a brand behind you. So if you've been running a brand for a long time, then there's a big chance that you're a well-known brand. But if you're relatively new, you're going to be hustling a lot without using paid advertising.
Yeah, cool. Love that. Very, very powerful and very scalable. Let's quickly talk about influencers. I think it's a big one, right? A lot of people are seeing them out online. You said there's a lot of power there. How can we do this, right? Because a lot of people might want to approach an influencer. I think it's probably different compared to the type. If it's an e-commerce, it's probably a little bit easier. It's just like, hey, here's a code, maybe discount or whatever, and you can track that. Whereas a service-based business might be a little bit different on what that is, on how that is done. So how can we I guess, structure things, you know, like if we're going to an influencer, because a lot of people might not have 100 grand or something like that, right, to pay an influencer at the earlier stages, but there might be ways that we can get them on board where it's a win-win in that way.
Yeah, so I think people often look at influencers and think, oh, I want that influencer because they've got a huge following. But what you'll typically find is that smaller influencers have a tighter audience, so they're more likely to trust and respect what the influencer is putting out and be more likely to take action off that. So never discount first a smaller influencer or a micro influencer, because often we'll see better results from those particular types of influencers. Now, the biggest thing that we haven't got in Australia yet, but that is about to be launched hopefully soon, it's already out in, say, the UK and the US, etc., is the creator marketplace on Meta. And essentially, it's absolute gold. You can go in and you can look for people in your space for all different price amounts, and you can put a brief together, and basically it will just send them pictures. And it just makes the process so easy. You don't really have to think about too much about how am I going to approach them or the cost, because there's people on there that will do videos for, say, $200 or $500, and then you can run the ad as a partnership ad. So at the top, I don't know if you've ever seen, it will say the ad is basically in partnership with someone else, and then you get the benefit of both of the audiences. So, and you've got the exposure of someone that's well known in the marketplace. So I would say if you can try and jump on the creator marketplace, that's going to be the easiest way for you to find someone in your space that you can use to run ads, that you can use in your price range. And you can see their engagement ratings within the creator marketplace or by going to their Instagram as well. And it will tell you how likely their audience is to engage with them based on their content, which is another really good thing, because you'll see a lot of big influencers have a big following that they grew years ago, but they haven't really engaged them recently. Whereas you'll go and find smaller ones and you'll see their engagement rating is much higher because they've worked really hard in the last year or so to build that following. So hopefully that's helpful, but the creator marketplace is probably going to be the easiest way to contact people. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned DM. So plenty of people, I shouldn't even say old-fashioned, it's not that old-fashioned really, but yeah, we have a few clients that just DM influencers directly. Typically now people don't want free product, they want payment. But just know that there are influencers out there that don't cost an arm and a leg to start off with.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Yeah, love that. That sounds amazing. That creator marketplace. Looking forward to that. Launching, making things a lot easier for everybody, both sides, right? For the business as well as them. And then also, yeah, the good old school, right? Asking the question. It's like me and my podcast, right? A lot of people, some people I have to ask multiple times, you know, to get responses or to get a yes to get on the podcast. A lot of people don't know that happens in the background, right? It's because I asked the question. Yes. Or some people don't ask at all, right? And you don't know unless you ask. So
but that's true. I think a lot of people that have been around for a while or that are successful know that it's basically, I don't want to say like a little child where they just keep asking for the same thing, but it's like if you just keep asking and you're showing up, eventually people will say, or they might say yes, or they're just busy. They need to be reminded, or, you know, sometimes you just need to grow a little bit more and then they'll accept you on. But something I actually did want to quickly also go back on with the influencers is make sure when you book an influencer or you book someone for user-generated content that you do specify in a contract or some way that you want a post and a reel or whatever you want for that particular amount of money, because often the communication is lost and then someone would feel like they've paid for something and they didn't get it, but it was just that the communication channels weren't clear.
Yeah, cool. Good one there. Know what the outcome is of what you want. And
exactly.
Yeah, very specific, very smart. Yeah, awesome. Very, very powerful. And yeah, you shared so much gold with us today, which is amazing. And I guess as we're starting to wrap up, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
So I've already covered it, but my one piece of advice is to, when you're ready to scale your brand, don't discount using paid advertising, because it is the fastest and easiest way to reach your dream audience without the hustle. So essentially you can achieve your dream lifestyle if you have something that people want, but you need to be able to reach your audience fast. And the easiest way to do that is through paid advertising.
Definitely. So powerful. And Yeah, we connected through our networks. I learned about your awesome journey from being a marketing manager to an online marketing expert and meta ads expert as well. You're an amazing woman. Show you so knowledgeable. You shared so much gold with us here today, right? Of the awareness of how to do it and tools and influencers. Loved it. It's been really powerful, and I'm sure you continue to teach creators how to run meta ads using a simple blueprint so they can find their dream students with ease and finally reach their income goals without the 24/7 hustle. Very grateful that we connect and look forward to partnering as well. So, Nikki, how can people find you, get in contact with you?
Yes. So first of all, thanks for having me. I'm so glad our paths did cross. Now, if you want to find me, you can find me at thedigitalexchange.co, and my Instagram is exactly the same, thedigitalexchange.co. And then from there, you can see we have a YouTube channel with tutorials and different things that if you scroll to the bottom of our website, you'll see that. And if you comment, I think it's calculator on my Instagram, you will get the budget calculator.
Awesome.
It's going to go
Amazing.
straight to your DMs.
Love it. That's always the best way, right? Messaging now. So definitely check out Nikki there. Go to the website, Digital Exchange, and all the resources on there, the YouTube channel, the socials, especially Instagram. Comment that, get the calculator, help you to work it backwards and work out how you're going to be hitting your goals. So definitely check out Nikki and all those places. It's been a pleasure interviewing you. Thanks for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Business Growth Show, where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Ethan Casiotis, or visit my website, ethancasiotis.com. And if you want to grow and scale your business, you'd reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. So until next time, remember that our business grows where we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So let's create wealth and freedom together.